This is another beautiful Wednesday, and as you know, each and every Wednesday, Dreamland Health and Wellness is bringing some very, very important information about sleep. And as always, we have Dr. Anakute, who is a sleep specialist. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Hi, good morning, Harold. How are you?
Man, I told you I'm living on another vapor, I think, because I just feel so good all the time, man. Being blessed, number one, to be alive and learning
Yeah.
about ways to stay alive. And one of
Mhm.
those things that we talk about each and every week is sleep and sleep wellness. And for the last 3 weeks, we have given some very specific information about sleep apnea. We have gone into snoring. Let's just go into some habits that we might need to be fearful of in
Yes.
getting a good night's sleep. So, the 10 worst habits that can ruin your sleep uh, and cause insomnia. So, the first one, when I was doing my research, they said eating a large meal before bed. Please tell me how that can be a bad habit
Yes.
before you get your good night's sleep.
Yes. So we pretty much say that you should give at least 3 hours before bed when you're having dinner, right? And the reason is because when you eat, right, the body needs time to digest your food. And so once you put something in your mouth, you're more like waking the body up to start working. That's what you're saying. You're telling the body, I have some food in my system. I need you to begin to break it down. And so the body goes into action doing all that. But and that's really not what we want close to bedtime. We want to wind down. We want the body to slow down gradually and then fall asleep. And so when you eat meals, whatever it is, and more so in large quantities, you're giving the body so much work to do just before bed that it becomes difficult for the brain to shut down and then gradually fall asleep. So that's why.
This is so interesting because every time we always lead back to how just dynamic this brain is. So it is like a computer that is synchronized to tell you after you eat, here's what we need to do to process this food, and sleeping will not be one of them. If we want to, go to bed and have a healthy night's sleep later on. So that's some great information because I know a lot of people that eat right before they go to bed, and that's one of the worst things. Now, we already have discussed what the bed is for. Not being funny, but true. You gave the information that the bed is for sleep and sex. And so, one of the, number two on the chart, it says lying awake in bed.
Yes. So lying awake in bed is one thing that perpetuates insomnia. So if insomnia is basically you having a difficult time falling asleep, and if you continue to stay in bed in a bid to fall, in trying to fall asleep, you're not going to fall asleep because what happens while you're laying down is that you're worried, oh my goodness, I'm not going to sleep. I have to go to work tomorrow. I have to get up at this time. And all of that anxiety created around sleep makes it more difficult for you to fall asleep. And the other thing people do is that they keep looking at the time. Oh, now it's 10 o'clock. Now it's 10:30. And now, so that just builds the anxiety. Now, surprisingly, the center in the brain that is responsible for processing thoughts, for anxiety, stimulating thoughts, and all of that, that's the hypothalamus, is the same center in the brain for wakefulness. So once that center is turned on by anxiety, there is no way that you're going to fall asleep. The only way to fall asleep would be to turn off that center so that the wakefulness center gets turned off, and then you're able to fall asleep. And so that's why we discourage laying in bed more than 20 to 30 minutes trying to fall asleep, because then you go into that state of anxiety and then you turn on the wakefulness button in the brain.
And like you mentioned, you almost have to reset, I would imagine, that the sleep pattern if you want to turn that thing off because
Yes.
once you're laying there and you're building anxiety, it's just going to keep regurgitating, so to speak. Uh,
Right.
Environment, and we talked about this candidly when we had the discussion on the differences between men and women, and we're talking about too hot, too cold, too noisy. Having the proper environment before you go to sleep was number three on our hit list.
Yes. So, and sometimes, unfortunately, some of these things are things you can't control, right? For example, if you live in a place close to a railroad and the train is moving, right? Or you live close to the highways as cars are moving constantly. So you can't really control that noisy environment. Sometimes you can, right? And so, regardless of the situation, you need to make sure that you're doing everything you can to make your environment sleep friendly, I would say. And even if it means you going to get earplugs, going to wear eye patches, whatever it is that helps you take away the noise, take away light if that wakes you up, if you're a light sleeper and if you need to go somewhere else to sleep, um, that is one thing that you really want to work on.
And one of the things that we mentioned earlier, if you were married, and we were, being candid about the fact that when you live with another person, sometimes their sleep habits don't coincide with yours. What would you recommend as far as too hot, too cold, too noisy, depending on your mate and how they need to find a way to fall asleep?
I That's a really difficult place to be, right? Really difficult. And I always encourage a conversation around this. And trying to find a middle ground between the two people. Like, okay, it's too hot for me, it's too cold. Is there a temperature that would work best for you? Can I shut the vents on my side and have the vents on your side? Or, just working together to make everyone comfortable and being reasonable, right? And it's always a conversation. What is it? Someone says, "Oh, if you get out of bed, I might wake up. What can we do to help you so that you stay asleep?" And and this brings in snoring again, right? The other partner is like, "You're snoring. It's noisy. I can't fall asleep." Do you need to stay in separate, different rooms for the time being until that issue is sorted out? Things like that. So having a conversation and being understanding is always what I encourage.
I'm gonna tell you now, Dr. Anakuti, at 66 years old and wise, I think that if we started building a new trend on letting people know it's okay. If the bed is only for sleep and sex, then go sleep in a separate bed, then maybe. And it's okay. And have sex in the bed, and then everybody go sleep. So, this just a thought, and I'm not gonna get anything started, but I know this next bad habit, Dr. Anakute, I am the nap president. I am the nap king. And it says taking long naps. And I promise you, I can sleep so much better between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon than I can in the middle of the night. I don't know why, but help me, doctor.
So, and this is a vicious cycle. Once you start taking naps, you will. So, the thing about naps, I should start this way, is that when you take a nap, you deplete the sleep drive. When we wake up in the morning, the body begins to accumulate what we call a sleep drive. And that's the drive or the sleep pressure that needs to rise to a certain point such that you will be able to fall asleep at nighttime. So if you start rising in that sleep pressure and somewhere around 2 p.m., you take a nap, you drop that pressure. And so it takes another 4 to 5 hours to raise that pressure to the point where you need to fall asleep again. And so you will always see that people that take a nap in the afternoons, especially late afternoons, early evenings, have problems falling asleep because they have not been able to build that pressure to fall asleep at nighttime. So it's difficult to cut out naps. And so what I recommend is trying to move that nap a little bit earlier in the day, somewhere around noon to 3 p.m., and make it a short nap. Set an alarm for 20 to 30 minutes. So it's a cat nap. because if you're taking a nap after 3, you're going to have problems falling asleep that night. And so that just keeps
Doctor,
going on and
me and
on.
my me and my little inner self are laughing at you so much right now.
Yes.
I know you're trying to do the best you can for HB, but man, let me tell you something. My little inner self said, "Man, Doc don't know what she talking about, Jumbo, because about 2 o'clock after you get off the air today, we gonna get us a good one in." But I feel you and I hear you. These are good prescriptions for the people. So basically, shorten your nap to make sure that your cycle's not thrown off later on, so you can still get you a healthy night's sleep. But I think that this all depends too on, where are you in your life? Like, I don't have to get up and do a routine like most people. And so,
Yes.
and I guess this next one, I told you, I'm flunking sleeping. And I was a Dean's List student, take pride in that stuff. But man, I am flunking to healthy sleeping, using your bedroom as a multi-purpose room. So I guess you need to just
Oh,
come and get this daggone computer that's next to my bed as a poet. Some of my best writings, Dr. Anakute, I promise you, from about 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the still of the morning when ain't no noise, ain't no phone, and me and God are just talking, and I can put these words to thoughts. And I need to get this computer out of my room.
I hear you. I hear you. So the thing about keeping the bedroom space only for sleep is because we want the brain to associate the bed and the bedroom for only sleep. Um, and I don't know if a lot of us remember in younger days, we did something called the Pavlov experiment. And this was about a dog that was being. So, what happened was this dog, a bell would ring, and the dog would know that it's time to go eat. And so the experiment had the dog go eat every time the bell rang. And that happened for 2 to 3 weeks. And after some time, they took away the food and they only just rang the bell. And what they noticed was that the dog would still salivate because the dog had associated the bell ring with, oh, it's time to eat. And so that's really what happens with our brain when we do everything else in bed and still do sleep. When it's time to sleep, the body says, no, I should be studying. I should be watching a show. I should be awake because that association has not been made strictly with between the bed and sleep. And so that's what we recommend. And even if you live in a space where your bedroom is everything, it's a one bedroom, right? We want you to create a corner in that space just for sleep. And then you get a chair, a table, and make another section. And that section is for you to read and do other things so that once you get out of that section and get to the bed section, your brain only thinks about sleep. And that's why we recommend that. Yes.
I love what you do, but boy, you're crushing me in my parking lot right now. We've got a few more of these topics, but they're great, and I'm so happy that you're able, as an expert, to explain because the layperson reading this wouldn't get the full information of why, versus just telling you and throwing it off. We already know drinking alcohol, coffee, smoking cigarettes, anything that's going to be a stimulant before you go to bed. We talked about that in depth. I want to talk about sleeping less when you're busy, because brother's busy, and sometimes I find out this is honest. When I was doing the promotion game and doing the transportation for celebrities, and I would be going maybe from 6 in the morning till about 2 the next morning. I found it so hard to go to sleep when I was done. The adrenaline and the rush would not let me go to sleep when you would think you should be tired and be ready to just pass out. What is that?
This even brings to mind maybe something else we should talk about on one of these segments: the problems, the consequences of sleep deprivation. What happens? What are the long-term problems when you are not getting enough sleep? So that's really something I think we should look into maybe one of these days.
Absolutely. Yeah, in depth. Yeah.
Yes, but coming back to your question, you want to actually think of it the other way around. If you get enough sleep, you'll become more productive. You have so much to do. You want to think about, oh my goodness, I need to make sure I'm getting enough sleep so I can stay focused, so I can concentrate. Because if you don't get enough sleep, you realize that you're irritable, you lose focus, you lose concentration, you forget things. You're like, oh my goodness, what was I thinking about? You're just so touchy. You fall asleep intermittently. Assuming you're driving on a long distances, you could fall asleep, you could have an accident while you are driving. So that's how I want to think about it. As yes, you have so much going on, but you need to be powered up to by sleep to be able to achieve a lot more during your day. So prioritizing sleep is actually what's going to help you be more productive and be more efficient during your day.
Now, this is, I mean, these next two are going to be kind of tied together because number 8 of some of the worst things you can do before trying to go to sleep says staying active until the moment before hopping into bed, and then tied into exercising vigorously before bed. And we've already talked about the bed is only for sleep and sex. And I don't know everybody's sex habits, but if it's really good, it's probably vigorous. How do we make that make sense?
Okay. Oh my goodness, that last
Did I go
question.
there? Did I go there, Doctor Anakute? Did I do that? Did I
That's
do that?
very that's interesting.
I
let
mean,
me
think about it. I mean,
let
I'm
me
just doing. I'm looking at what they're saying, and I'm like, okay, these two don't really. It's like an oxymoron if we're talking. So go ahead, Doctor.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna try to attempt it because
Okay. I think
that's
I know.
that's
I know you can handle
I,
it, but it's pretty. That's pretty good for the listening ear, isn't it?
it is, yes.
Okay.
So, and again, the whole thing about exercise and doing so much before bed is all linked to what I said earlier about food, right? Waking the body up, setting the body in a more active state when we want it to wind down. That's really all it's about. Now, coming to sex in bed and sex being a form of exercise, as it were, right? And we're not necessarily saying that you must when we say the bed is only for sex and sleep, where it doesn't have to be right before bedtime. What
Okay.
that's not what we're saying. Yes, we're just saying that this is the location for only two things. Now the
Look at you,
timing
Dr. Anna Crute. That was so daggone smooth, boy.
the timing is what you need to sort out, right? And if you can give like an hour before bed for sex, that's still okay.
Okay.
And if that's not okay because of the difference in schedule for the couple and all of that, then that's what it is, right? But when we say the bed only for sex and sleep, it's just the location that it should be for, not necessarily the timing and how close to bed that should be happening.
So
Yes.
maybe the attitude and the timing of, like you say, when you feel like being intimate needs to be incorporated in this to know that, later on we need a healthy night's sleep. So we might want to get this on earlier.
Yes.
That's good to know. The last one as we close out today, because this has been very rich, and thank you again for the listeners. We're listening to Dreamland Health and Wellness. Dr. Anna Crute, a sleep specialist, comes in each Wednesday and gives us some very, very direct information and knowledgeable information on sleep. The last one is varying your sleep time from one day to the next. And I know with all the different jobs that people work, some part time, some working midnights. Let's talk about getting a time pattern regardless of your your work habits or whatever your fluctuation in your daily schedule might
I missed that last question. Can you take that again?
be. I was speaking on varying your sleep time from one day to the next, and I was explaining about the variations, and sometimes lifestyle creates you not to be able to control. If you're working and one night you're getting off at 5, the next night you're working a part-time job and getting off at 10, that's going to alter that pattern. So what do we do uh, if you have to vary your sleep time from day to day to try to get as healthy a sleep as possible?
All right, great, great. I like that. So, very tough, right? It is tough. And we have people that are working shift work, right? They have to work 2 days and then they're off on 2 days and all of that. What to do? What I recommend is to keep your sleep schedule the same, even if you're off. So, for example, if you work evening shifts, 3 to 11 p.m., and you get in bed at 1 p.m., 1 a.m., I'm sorry, every night, keep that schedule even when you're off because you want to still regularize your schedule. If you work night shifts, 10 to 6 a.m., you're sleeping during the day, we recommend to keep that shift essentially, keep that shift as well as keeping that sleep schedule. Now, the challenge I get to hear often is how realistic is this, right? If you're a married man, you have kids, or a woman, you want to spend time with your family. And if you're sleeping during the day, how are you going to spend time with them? And I've seen people choose a different specialty or a different job because they want to regularize their sleep schedule. I've have had people get letters from this doctor saying, "Hey, this is not working out. Can you reassign me to a different department because this is affecting me?" Um, for some people, even though they work different schedules, they sleep great. So they have no issues and I don't bother them, right? But it becomes a problem where it's causing significant problems. You can't get good sleep because of that disruption in schedule. And those are the people that need to pay attention, seek medical advice, go see a sleep specialist and work it out together and go from there. Yeah.
We're getting ready to close the day, and I told you this is I love candid conversations, and this was good. As I look at these 10 words habits, and a guy who really likes to be good at everything, I suck at sleeping, Dr. Anaclute. If we could, for the people out here who might be listening and think that they suck at sleeping too, what would be if you could do out of these 10 as close as you could be? Because if somebody's doing 10 out of 10 of these, man, they are some kind of super person. Uh, if you could administer what, 4 out of the 10, 5 out of the 10, I mean, to try to get as close to possible. Because I'm telling you, some brothers, I'm thinking right now when you mentioned working overnight and stuff, and I know many of the guys who have children that are working overnight just because of the extra bonus. So to transfer out and try to go to days to get a better sleep isn't in their train of thought. So we've got a lot of I told you this is why this is so beautiful, because we have a lot of things that we can discuss off of the discussions that we previously had. And those are some of the truths that come
Yeah.
out. So as we close, how many of these things out of the 10, if you could try to correct and get right to start off, not all 10 at once, but to start off, so how many would you recommend? Like the baby
Yeah.
feed jumbo, Dr. Adekute.
Okay. So I would at least recommend to um start out with the things that you can control, right? Because not everything is within your control. So it's going to be dependent on who is involved and what's going on. What can you control? Can you control your environment? Then start with that. Can you control getting out of bed with after 20 minutes and doing something else and getting in bed only when sleepy? Then control that. Can you control which other one did we talk about? You're using alcohol close to bed.
Right, right.
Can you control that by spacing a little bit, giving 3 hours um, alcohol,
In
and then
between.
go to bed 3 hours later? Then do that. So start with the things within your control, and then work your way up to, and then it's encouraging when you start with those and you see the significant results. Then that can motivate you to look into the other areas and see, oh my goodness, this has helped me tremendously, has changed my sleep, has I'm more energetic during the day, I'm getting more sleep. Then let me look into the other things and see what I can do to change those as well.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Anakute. And as always, this information is very informative, and I hope that some people listening will be able to better their sleep habits. Don't forget, if you want to learn more about Dreamland Health and Wellness, you can go to dreamlandhealth.com, or you can go right there to www.radio-next.tv. They have a link on our Radio Next.tv page. Dr. Anakute, until the next time, my friend.